Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
In a weird turn of events, Doug's going to talk about a JRPG. I feel like normally if it's a weird RPG or JRPG like Persona 5 Royal, it's normally me talking about it.
Yeah.
This is weird.
This is actually the first JRPG I've ever finished.
That's bullshit.
No, absolutely. Like turn-based RPGs, the first one I've ever finished.
Are you serious?
Absolutely dead serious. This is like the first time I've had to fight a JRPG turn-based final boss, and like that sucks and I don't like it.
All 18 forms and 6 endings of it.
Yeah, but no, it's funny because like I was thinking about like the ones I thought I beat was like Final Fantasy X. I've gotten to Sin twice, had my save deleted twice. Persona 4 I got 30 hours into and stopped. I get 50% of the way through a JRPG and then turn it off.
It's like,
but that's when I spent all 96 hours playing Persona 5 Royal.
that's so ridiculous. Which I played 10 hours of Persona 5 normal. I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm really good at the first 15 hours of a Persona game. I think I played the first 15 hours of like 3, 4 gold and 5. So
Sure.
Anyway, what is it about Persona 5 Royal? Why this one? Because you just named one of the greatest games of all time in Final Fantasy X. And you didn't bother finishing that masterpiece.
Yeah. It's not that I didn't want to. My sister deleted my save just coincidentally twice. Anyway. No, it's weird because like I was trying to think why this one like kind of captured me, and really I think it's the style. I think most like with any JRPG, at some point you start seeing the same enemies and you start seeing the same like places and that sort of thing, and after a while it's just like, okay, I get this. But I think Persona 5, its style is so effing cool. Like there's so many cool like things in the story where it like really was dragging me along. I think they did a really good job of just like pacing everything as well. Like the story keeps like pulling you forward and pulling you forward and pulling you forward. And just like honestly, the game is like just gorgeous. Like every freaking frame of that game is just like insanely good looking, which is just something I don't know. I just feel like a lot of games, especially like I guess what I put when I think JRPGs, I don't necessarily think of them. I mean, outside like traditional Final Fantasy that I would say don't look that great anymore. But like outside of like those, I just don't really associate like JRPGs with just being like consistently gorgeous the entire 96 hours. It's just like there's a point where it's like, okay, I'm now in this city for whatever, and it's like, all right, sort of thing. But I think it's just like the style that like really, really grabbed me and really pulled me through. I will say though that like they could cut that game to like 40 hours, which would be just fine.
I mean, as somebody who's played a lot of JRPGs and thoroughly loves them, that is a common theme for most. It's like most long-running TV series where by the end you're like, we could have cut 5 or 6 hours out of this, and we would have probably been better off. You're still great, and I still love you, but you're 5 hours too much.
The thing that's funny, it just feels like I think that like any sentence I say in this that's positive should end in comma, but it's too long. Which like this game is amazing. It really like all those 9s and 10s it got totally deserve, but it's too long. Yeah. No, it's actually really funny because I think the length is actually kind of important because it was something I kept going back and forth on like a lot. was when is this game going to end? And I kept going back and forth, like whether or not I think it really needed the 96 hours. And like my ultimate conclusion was like, maybe not, but I did enjoy the length because you get to spend so much time with those characters.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite aspects of the game is actually, I haven't even started talking about the game itself.
No, you haven't.
What is Persona 5?
We know what Persona 5 is. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think it's kind of important to kind of say, like, kind of just give like the basic context of the game. So Persona 5 is a game where you are a high schooler in Japan, and you and your crew of other high schoolers are on a mission to steal people's hearts. And basically what that means is you get to do cool JRPG dungeons that are actually manifestations of people's wants and needs.
Yep.
And then you basically are stealing their heart to change their mind on whatever it is. So basically what it is, like, you're this teen group that's targeting these bad people and then going into their mind and then changing their mind to change their mind about whatever horrible thing they were doing.
All I'm thinking right now is Kingdom Hearts.
It's what is it really similar to? It's kind of like, I would say it's not similar to Kingdom Hearts because they have such like a big change of mind, but it's like really similar to like other like Psychonauts. Psychonauts is the one I would go to where it's like, oh, we went into your brain and then we did something and got out, sort of thing. But the thing that's really cool is that the game is set up where it's like, okay, I need to target this one bad guy. You get like a little bit of story and background of like why your group is targeting this one bad guy, and then you change their mind, and it just moves on to the like, essentially the next season.
Yeah.
And so each of these like people that you're attacking, I would consider one season, because each of those like little segments is 10 hours long. Like I was thinking by the end, I was like, okay, this might be just a short thing where you're just like, okay, this one bad guy is like, no, it's 10 hours long. Any new story beat
is 10 hours.
It's like, it's 10 hours long. Like, oh, I'm going into the final boss battle. It's 10 hours long. Oh, the epilogue. It's like, okay, I finally beat the game and now we're doing the epilogue. It's 10 hours long. But it's kind of cool. But because like they set these little targets, you kind of get these like, I guess what I would consider, and I think the best way to think about it is like seasons of a TV show, because like you usually get like a new member of your party. There's a new conflict that's kind of unrelated to this, and then in the background there's kind of this overarching story, which is really cool, because essentially as you're changing people's minds and these bad people, is like people start to notice. So by the end, your group kind of becomes more notorious, and they play with that in really, really cool ways. So it's really fun. So you're going on your little missions as your like little teenager group, and like you're thinking about just your teenager problems, but on the news, they're talking about your group. So it's funny because like you can watch news broadcasts, it's just kind of in the background, and you'll notice that like there's public opinion about these groups. There's like news stories about politicians who are paying attention to them. So there's this other like world behind your characters that's moving forward as well along with your characters. So they're doing their little missions, but the rest of the planet is actually starting to take notice.
So like secret identity type deal, like they're doing this in secret, right? Like this isn't like the like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like people don't even know they exist, because people don't know that world that they're going to change people's minds like exists. So they just think that there's like essentially a terrorist organization that like may or may not be good, that's changing people's minds. And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And they do a lot of cool things to play with that, because they have 90 hours to talk about it.
But wait, so like how do they view it as a terrorist organization? It's like, this dude had a change of heart, therefore a terrorist talked to him.
Well, no, it's not. It's well, in the background, there's another sub story that's going on where there are people whose minds aren't being changed. They're going through something called like they're not called psychotic breaks. They give it like a weird JRPG name.
Of course.
But basically what's happening is like people will like walk out in front of the street and let a bus hit them, or they'll go crazy and like drive a train through like a train station really fast.
Weird.
So yeah, so there's this other organization that's doing that stuff that's kind of tied into your group, and like the public's not sure. It's like, hey, is the Phantom Thieves, are they the ones who are also doing this, or is that somebody else?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so the people who are doing that sort of bad stuff, how they kind of intertwine and play with the Phantom Thieves, especially as the popularity grows and that sort of thing, is like, it's really, really cool, and it's super interesting. And it's just really, really fun. And I think the one thing I like, the other cool thing about that is like, that I really like, just the length in general, was because you got to spend so much time with your teammates. And every time I got a new teammate, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, get out of here. Like, it's like, I have my little, because you have like a little text message group that your group follows.
Yep.
And they talk back and forth. And all of a sudden, like, oh, you got a new member. And like, it just kind of messes with the vibe.
I don't want to deal with your shit. Get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I don't really know you. It's like, you're kind of on our last mission, but I don't really know you. But the thing that's cool is because you spend so much time with those characters, like, no, they're part of my crew. So once you kind of lead up to like that 90-hour mark or 80-hour mark, like you have like your solid crew, and like you're ready to go take this guy down. So it's neat in that I felt like that whole 90 hours, because I was wondering about the ending. I was just like, there's no way this is gonna be satisfying. Like, it just can't be. Like, there's definitely periods I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, because I'm sitting here like doing these like little, I don't know, JRPG stat boost things, like checking all this stuff. It's like, this just feels like work. I just felt at the end like there's no way this is going to build up, but like the way they do the ending and build everything up, it just feels like super, super satisfying, because you feel that 90 hours, like you feel like all of the stuff you've learned has built up to this moment. There are like a bunch of fake out final bosses though, and I was never sure when the game was going to end. I really thought the game was going to end at like hour 60. I was like pretty confident. I was like, oh, I got through this game fast.
You have texted me, I think, over the last 3 weeks. I think I'm at the end of Persona probably a dozen times in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Like just, finishing Persona. Be like, oh, nice. How is it? I don't know. I'm on the final boss. And then like 3 days later, be like, Persona's so long.
It is, but the thing that's cool is like, I think those things would be final bosses in any other game. it's like it's these cool crescendos that they do, and like I would say like the last 40-hour game is like just crescendo. It's like, okay, that was awesome, like they built that up really well to get this final boss. It's like, and now now they built that up, and that was another cool thing, and then they built that up again, and it's just cool because it just feels like you just know the characters. So it's like I guess it's kind of something like you're saying, like watching a really long TV show. Like at the end, you know these characters really well. You want them to win. You want them to succeed, and that sort of thing. And like there's some really, really cool stuff that happens in the plot that's just like very, very like, oh, this is the hypest shit sort of thing. And they do a lot of fun stuff like playing with the mechanics of so like your character, like a really simple example is like your character earns things like proficiency and charm and that kind of thing. And there's a weird story not plot point, but like there's a part where you're sitting in class and there's a teacher who throws chalk at you and it hits you every time. But there's a point when like you raise your proficiency high enough where he dodges it. It's just like, oh shit, my proficiency was high.
40 hours getting hit with his damn chalk.
Yeah, but it's cool like how and then they do some like really neat things where they kind of like they set up your expectations and kind of break them down. So I think the thing it does such a good job of like continually, it kept me interested the entire time as a result, because it kept building up these expectations, breaking them down, kind of rebooting the story in certain ways. It feels like, you know, all these like different arcs. Yeah. And like I would say like every time you finish an arc, you're like, okay, I think I'm done. But then like they have like a little trail thing that kind of is like, you know, oh, that's kind of interesting new plot twist sort of thing. I guess I'll kind of follow that and follow. It's like, okay. And then you get the big crescendo there, and then you finish it and keep going and going and going. I think that was kind of what kept my interest for the whole 96 hours.
Which is weird, because that was instantly what turned me off. Was like, oh, I'm done. I'm 11 hours in and I'm done. Everything that's been an issue, I wrapped up. Yes. I'm done. Yeah. Okay. I finished Persona 5. There are no empty threads left. I got them all.
I think that's kind of cool though, because like once you beat that, but I'm saying it's like they fill that with so much like interesting stuff that it really did feel like, this could have been its own game.
Yeah.
This one thing. So it feels like when you play Persona 5, you're actually playing Persona 5, Persona 6, Persona 7, Persona 8 sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because there's enough content for each of those things. But I can definitely feel like if you feel like you've gotten like your fill at some point and just want to hop out, I think it's fine. I think that's okay. Like I feel like just because those things are so full, you really could hop out at any time. Like you might not see the resolution of like the big overarching story. But I would say even like the last 30 hours has nothing to do with like most of the main plot up to that point. Like especially with the Persona like Royale stuff, like the Royale stuff kind of gives you like a whole new plot. It's like it's like a sequel that it's completely unrelated to the stuff you did before, which is kind of fun. And it's like seeing how these characters interact with a bad guy who is like really interesting and unrelated, like very specifically unrelated to the ones you fought up to that point.
But that doesn't feel like jarring at some point, going like, but I guess, is there a clear cut when the Royal stuff starts? Because that seems really jarring. Okay. Because that seems really jarring if you just roll and you're like, oh, final boss done. Oh, now here's a new thing. Like that feels really jarring.
Did you ever watch Breaking Bad?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil Breaking Bad. But there's a point where Breaking Bad, like at one of the ends of the seasons, clearly could have ended.
Yes.
And then the new season starts and you're kind of like on a rocky foot. It's like, okay, I kind of see what they're doing here. Like it doesn't really make sense. And then it's like, okay, but they're building up to something in the future. But that kind of transition from like clearly could have ended here, and then here's like a kind of a new thing that like didn't really need.
It's that always that feeling of like, we don't know if another season's happening, so we're gonna wrap this up enough that you'll be happy, but just leave those couple things to get to the next one just in case.
Yes. Exactly. And I felt that very much the Royale stuff, just because it felt like it just a totally, like I said, like the plot is just it's like a sequel. It's like a sequel to it, and it's like basically a 15-hour sequel to Persona 5, which was cool and it was fun. But I think like when I was like getting into the Royale stuff, because it's like it's basically like you beat the big boss, and they did this really cool scene, awesome final boss, and then it's like, and then there's like a big twist, and it's just like, fuck, like 15 hours.
I should have just played the base version. Damn it.
I actually did have that thought when I beat the final boss and the Persona 4R stuff started. I was just like, I don't know. I felt like, I could have not done this.
Spent 90 hours. I probably could have wrapped it here.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny, but you could have wrapped it at 60 hours. You could have wrapped it at 40 hours. You could have wrapped it. It's like basically whenever you want to wrap it, like you get you get that many satisfying conclusions in it, which I think is kind of cool. Like I feel like they're not even discouraging you from stopping at like certain points. It's cool. Like the loading screen even says "take your time." I think it's very fun. Yeah, it's a cool game. I do think that they're like one of the big issues I have with it though is like I hate that Persona games are set in high school because there's like a lot of weird stuff that like is a result of like setting a game with like a high schooler. The thing that's kind of the big reason I had mostly is because the way he interacts with people is a way like a 25-year-old could interact with people. So when you're 25, you can interact with people who are 30 and you can interact with people who are 18, and it's like not a weird thing.
Yeah.
But if you're like a 17-year-old and then you add up, then you interact with like 5 years above that and 5 years below that, it's only weird. Like,
so like, you have a 3-year window around that point where you get 3 years plus minus, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So like some like the adult characters you interact with, like I feel like every relationship he has with an adult in this game is like totally inappropriate. Like, and like the thing is like it's I don't know. He's just going like you go like the red light district, like the areas like in like the Yakuza games are based off of, like whatever
Kamurocho,
like the actual but I forgot.
I don't know the actual name.
Actually is. Yeah, but you go there and you like interact with people. It's like if the character is 25, this wouldn't be weird.
Yes, but
if like
high school student field trip seems a bit out of place.
Yeah, and it's weird, and it's like so like you also interact with like middle schoolers, which is strange. But like if you're a 17-year-old kid, like you wouldn't be interacting with like 12-year-olds in this way. It's just I just wish like they really would age up the characters because I think it'd be more interesting too. Because it was, I think one of the things with Persona 4, like when they really pushed the school stuff, it's like, oh, you could join the art club and you could join the whatever club, which is like kind of more integrated. And this one, like they don't have any of that stuff. You just interact with confidants or like these people wherever they are. Yeah. So it didn't need to be set in a high school like at all. And I just felt like a lot of the stuff that's kind of like weird and just like Japanese inappropriate stuff. It's like this all would have been like. Probably still not fine, but like more fine if they were all like 20, 25 sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was kind of cool because I think it just setting them in high school. It's kind of because they make decisions that you wouldn't necessarily agree with.
It's an easy way to justify the thing of like, that.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of cool. And like some of the times like they change people's hearts and stuff. It's like I get why you're doing this, but like. Is this really the right way to go about this? And like, if you're a high schooler, they use kind of like interesting high schooler logic to do stuff of like maybe, and then they kind of counteract that with like adults who are also interacting with this universe, with like this other world. They're like, hey, you realize what you guys are doing here, right? Like you're not like just changing people's minds, like you're changing their whole personalities. And it's fun when they start diving into that stuff. Yeah. Also the enemy designs the personas themselves are so fucking cool. They're so cool. All of them. They're all cool.
Everything about it seems cool. This is just like, it's the one series that like I have tried every game and I just can't. And it drives me a little bit crazy because like Final Fantasy, Dragon Age, Star Ocean, like whatever other JRPG you want to throw out there, like I got this. Gonna be a good time. And then it's like, no, Persona, no. the one that's the cool one. I can't do that one.
I feel like Persona is weird because you don't travel anywhere. I think that's kind of the thing. You're kind of stuck in the same like places. And I think like Final Fantasy, the other ones like you're going somewhere. But it does have kind of, I think Persona 5 has some of that like that feeling of Yakuza games because you're not traveling anywhere. You get to know the places really well, and that's really cool. Yeah. And when they start like when like the big guys start messing with your town, it's like, oh yeah, fuck that guy. Like,
that's where I go get lunch. Get away from there.
It's it is neat and like and I think the battle system is also super fun. It's really really fast and like I felt like I had to pay attention all the time. It's not a hard game, but it's definitely one where I feel like you're not paying attention, you're gonna get killed, and I like that. I haven't played a JRPG like that I guess before.
So there are some like that, but like in my mind, because again, I played the first 10 hours and I was going through, I think, the first palace. I didn't make it past the first one. And there was a point where it's like, I should just be rolling right now. Like, I shouldn't be, I should just be able to go attack, magic, and move on. But it's like, oh, wait, I actually have to like try on this? What's this about?
And I know you don't like that particularly with certain stuff. I guess it depends. We're kind of back and forth on that because I like more challenging stuff in general. It's funny, we had this discussion beforehand where you think like stuff that's like too challenging is wasting your time, where I think that stuff's too easy is wasting my
Yeah,
time.
yep. That's a whole separate conversation, but yeah. And I think, I don't know, I think my issue with Persona has always been like, I feel like there's a lot of my time being wasted. Again, I feel like I can justify a 40 to 50 hour JRPG, but it's like, if I can play like 3 Final Fantasies or
Sure.
1 Persona.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm like trying to think like of like other games I've played. Like, how much do I enjoy Persona compared to those? Like, I really did like. I liked Persona a lot. It probably would have been like my top few games last year. Like, I thought probably above Remnant.
I forgot that was like. I certainly hope so. I would put it above Remnant in mine. I only played 10 hours of it.
But I you know what it is? I think it's just like that. I think it's just that. I think the reason I want the characters aged up is I want them dealing with like adult problems. I think it's just because I'm 30. It's just like high schooler problems are not as interesting to me.
We're past that. You know, you're whatever. Yeah. Like, it's not a big deal. You'll be okay.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of. And it's like, and I feel like you could do the thing that sucks so much is like when I'm saying I want these characters aged up, it's like you 100% could do a Persona game with older characters. Like it's even in with like the mythos of like you could do that. It's not like doesn't require that everybody's like teenagers sort of thing. And I just feel like it would be so interesting if they did, just because like because it's adults making these games. Like, why don't you talk about the problems of like dealing with being adults? It's like you're probably going to give a better, fresher perspective on it than like, you know, what you think a cool high schooler is. Kind of like the Netflix. I guess it's like, I don't know, it's like the Japanese version. I don't know if you've seen like Netflix shows with high schoolers.
Not many.
So that's a really funny tweet where it's like a Netflix writer has never seen a high schooler talk to another high schooler.
It's probably true.
But it's like, and then this is kind of like that. Oh, it's too cool for school Japanese high schoolers. But I just think that it would be so neat if to do this. Like, I just want like the millennial version of Persona. I know that's like not. But it's like I want the grown up version of Pokemon. It's like, well, it's not for you. It's for teenagers.
That's not the point. Well, call up Atlas. We got ideas.
Yeah, it is cool though. It was such a neat game. I just like don't think I'll ever play a game that long ever again.
Nope.
It's weird. I know like I'm talking long about it, but it's just like I just spent like 96 hours. Like, it's just there's a lot.
If we can sum up everything about Persona 5, including our review, it's that it's too long.
Yeah, it is, but it's cool and it's funny because like I'm looking at these like reviews are like, this is the best game ever made, and like I see it, I get it. It's a good game. Like I think it should get an award for keeping me interested for that long. I think it would be a better game if it wasn't that long. But yeah.
Best at holding my interest 2020 Persona 5.
Dude, I've dropped games at like 2 hours and this one kept me for 96. That deserves an award. Yeah. It's so cool. And it's really, I don't know, it's just like really cool. I like the style too. And it's like really gorgeous because I think the Persona 4 Royale was like it has like nice 4K stuff. Yep. Because I was playing on PS5, it just looks gorgeous all the time, and it was just I think that and how cool the Personas were.
Yeah,
Personas are really funny. They're so silly. they're so weird because they're very cool looking or extremely obviously stupid looking, or cute or goofy, or it doesn't like every time you see a new Persona, it could just be something totally different because they're just like, let's just pull on every mythos ever. It doesn't matter. It can be a Persona. So you're like by the end, you're fighting angels while you were fighting evil teddy bears a few minutes before, while you were fighting literal spaceships and other stuff. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm done. It's a good
game. With that, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.